My name is Michael Darby, taxi proprietor. I was a taxi driver for 22 years.
How did you get into the profession?
I used to be a greengrocer, had a bit of family upset, and I had to find a job, and the only job I could find was taxi driving at the time. And I liked it so much that I stayed on at it and ended up buying my own taxis.
My name is Martin. I'm from the Czech Republic, if you want to know. And I'm a taxi driver. Technically speaking, I'm a private hire driver. In 2007, I just for some reason decided to go to England to look for a job, and I contacted my cousin. He said, "Yeah, just come and you'll become a taxi driver and you'll be all right." So I did.
My name is Richard Stewart and I'm a taxi driver in Winchester.
So how did you get into becoming a taxi driver?
Through friends, to be perfectly honest with you. I used to have another business which I folded up and didn't want to do anymore. I didn't really know what to do, and a couple of my mates were taxi drivers and they taught me into it.
What was your previous business?
I used to be a panel beater and sprayer in a motor trade, repairing cars, mainly old classic cars.
Well, Russell Sterling, that is IR, as in Sterling Castle, not ER, there's that horrible English way. I got into it by a friend of mine actually, who, because I was a bit low on work at the time, said to me, "Why don't you come and do a few hours for me taxi driving?" And I used to work days, and I thought, well, I'd pass the time away and give me a few bob. But I never intended to stay in it, but there you are, 14 years on, here I am, still here.
My name's John Hatfield, and I'm a Bournemouth Hackney carriage driver.
And how did you get into the profession?
Well, there are those that say that sort of taxi drivers are a bunch of misfits and sort of vagabonds and that just drift into the trade, but we've all done stuff before, and there's carpenters, there's plumbers, there's chefs. You know, I was a chef for 20 years, and I drifted into it 15 years ago.
Why did you stop being a chef?
Chefs work very, very hard. They work split shifts and they don't get a lot of remuneration. Taxi drivers, if you're prepared to work nights, you can earn considerably more.
Trying to earn money's the worst thing at the moment. Used to be a lot better donkeys years ago, but yeah, everything's just so expensive now. And not only for us doing it, but obviously people can't afford to go in cabs, so it's a two-way thing, you know. People ain't using us and everything's too expensive.
Do you know kind of why that is? Is that because you're paying for the petrol?
I think everything's too much money. Yeah, diesel's so much more. We have to buy newer cars. Equipment costs go up. Paul wants more money off of us every month. And people haven't got the money in their pockets, I don't think, just to go out anymore. Not like they used to. So
the recession affects all the business, but especially in taxi. I don't think it's any good anymore in this business. So still, we at least just pay the bills. That's all right.
I suppose it's a sort of job, right, that it's like being like a barber, I suppose. When people are drunk, they'll get into the cab, right, they don't know you, and they'll spill the beans on certain things that a normal person wouldn't really, because they know they ain't going to get the cab with you again, sort of thing, yeah.
So you've got a lot of secrets almost there from
well,
all these
yeah,
people.
I suppose, I mean, a lot of people, they get in the cab and they're drunk, right, and if they've got any problems, a lot of people, they just open up because they think, you know what I mean, they don't know me from Adams.
yeah, many moons ago, 1989, August. I was on a ride for I used to ride big motorcycles, and on the way home from work, and a lorry pulled straight out of an industrial park. Don't remember anything about it, apart from waking up in hospital like 3 weeks later. God. And it took me like a year. They kept me in for just over a year in hospital. So, yeah, I broke my back, my neck. My right leg is, well, from the knee up to the hip is basically metal and stuff like that. Wow. And my shoulder, and that to take my arm off eventually. He didn't do it immediately because I had suffered real bad nerve damage. I couldn't feel anything through it, and that's the reason it just wasted away. So they took that off in the end. But.
So is that the point where you stopped your original company?
Yeah, I was still spraying, but it was getting harder and harder and harder. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. I was looking for a bit of an easier option, and this came along, and I thought, yeah, I can drive all day.
So did you have to kit out the car yourself?
Yeah, the only thing I have to use literally is just automatic gearbox and just a steering ball, because around the back of the streets in Winchester, it's rather tight, as you can imagine. Yeah. Got a good left arm though now, so good, yeah.
Typical customers that you can tell us about, really funny stories, anything like that?
Yes.
Would you like to?
Any in particular?
I had one where I went out to a place called Rhinefield House at Brockenhurst one night, and a lady come out and she's going to Portsmouth, and she was crying her eyes out, and she got into the vehicle, and I'm going down towards the motorway towards the M27, and all of a sudden she said, driver, driver. I said, yes. She said, have a look in your mirror. And I looked in my mirror, and she was naked on the back seat, and she was saying to me, can you see anything wrong with me? And I said, from where I'm looking, no. but I'll put your clothes back on if I was you, my love. Do you want to tell me about it? And apparently it was her wedding anniversary. Well, her husband went to a seminar down at this Rhinefield House, and the lads down there must have got him a couple of gorgirls for the night. But she got a taxi down to there to surprise him, and she got the surprise.
I've done some quite amusing things to other taxi drivers, like my little lad had this can of fart spray. It was absolutely horrendous. So I'm sort of number 4 on the station one day, and I see a friend of mine who's number 1, but he's out of his car chatting to some other drivers. So I sneak along the blind side of his vehicle, open the door, and pump 2 or 3 sprays of this horrible stuff. Smells like rotten eggs. Anyway, the train was just coming in. This old lady was the first one out with her suitcase. He shoved her suitcase in the boot. They both got in, and I looked at them. He looked at her as if to say, God, my God, you're absolutely stinking. And she looked at him thinking the same thing. Both of them were too polite to say anything, and they were both rolling their windows down. It was, you know.
That sounds good.
My name is John Burke. I am the licensing manager at Southampton City Council. Two people got into a car in Northern. They got taken to Portswood. Got out of the car, walked round to the driver's door. Driver winds the window down, looks for his change bag. Guy puts his hand inside his jacket. What comes out is not his wallet, but a hammer. Hits the driver in the middle of the forehead. Knocked him backwards. He did have a camera in the car. One of my colleagues did the download. Came in here on a Saturday to do it because the police were so concerned. They'd seized the car. They used it as a crime scene. And it looks like a Sam Peckinpah movie, to be quite frank. As the guy went back across the front of the car, he then ends up in hospital, suspected fractured skull. Turned out it wasn't. The guy's a Sikh, he wears a turban, and just the mere fact that he got some cloth across his forehead was just enough to save him, apparently. Had he not, he'd have had a depressed fracture of the skull.
So do you ever come across any racism in the profession?
Yeah, there is. You get them all out on a Saturday night after a few beers, like, you know, and it is getting bad, but you're always going to have that small element, aren't you? Always, no matter what you do. So, and I must admit, I admire some of our drivers who having the bottle to actually put up with it. I really do. I wouldn't, you know what I mean? Shouldn't say it, but they're getting used to it.
These yellow taxis Hackney carriages. They've got a Hackney carriage plate. There are 249 Hackney carriages in Bournemouth. That number hasn't increased since 2003.
Oh, right, okay.
Private hire, the vagabonds that you phone up and they send some Algerian bandit to pick you up.
Right.
There are no limit to the amount of private hire vehicles, provided the company that you phone is prepared to take them on. They're an unlimited number.
Hackney carriage can stand and apply for hire, which means you can hail it in the street. It sits on a rank. It can pick up as and when you wave at it. Private hire can't. Private hire must be, in every case, pre-booked.
Yeah, private hires are actually taking our jobs. They're not allowed to pick up from the streets, but they do. And white drivers, they never talk to us.
Really?
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know why, but I've tried a few times, but they don't really like to talk with us.
Do you ever find there's any kind of rivalry between the ranks in Winchester or race and taxi press?
Yeah, race there is, but not between the white people, to be perfectly honest with you. No, it's generally whether I don't know, Pakistanis versus Indians, it's all that sort of stuff. It's more rivalry. I don't actually get to see it because I don't do nights.
Yeah. So have you heard anything that's happened?
You get each other like stepping and nicking each other's fares and stuff like that every now and then. Yeah.
How does that work? Or do they just jump the queue?
Yeah, basically they go and jump the queue.
Now there is no, how can I put it, no companionship anymore. You sit on a taxi rank and you wait for a fare. If somebody used to walk up the other side of the taxi driver and just pull over and pick them up and pull off, they wouldn't think nothing of it.
There used to be kind of more respect between you.
There's no respect anymore, and the reason being, I'm not racist, but we have so many foreign taxi drivers in the town now, so they just don't obey by the rules. They have their own rules. And if you look along this rank now, I would say we've got 5 cars and I bet I'm the only Englishman in the taxi. That's without looking, I know. They're all foreigners, there's no British. It seems, the foreign element is actually buying all the taxi plates up.
The whole idea about licensing Hackney carriage and private hire drivers is that they have the public trust. So the public have to be certain that when they get into the vehicle that the driver is safe to be with, that he's a person who's reputable, he's not a person with a long string of convictions for fraud or for sexual offences or for violence, for instance, all of which will not necessarily bar somebody from being a driver, but it will delay when it is they get their licence.
I'm assuming that you do get applicants that do have those boxes ticked, do they?
I have seen applicants whose CRB checks are run to several pages of convictions.
We were supposed to have a code in the taxi, but the actual licensing authorities don't seem to be doing anything about it. There's so many people out here got licences that you jumped in there and give them your address, they'd never know where you live. They have to get the sat nav and have a look through there and do it like that. That's the only way they can do it. Yeah. Because they've got no idea. And as far as I'm concerned, they shouldn't have a licence. If somebody can't get into my taxi and want to go somewhere, I've got no idea how to get there. I shouldn't be driving the vehicle.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about it, yeah.
Do you think it's too easy for them to get licences then?
We don't know how they're getting them. We don't know how they're getting them.
So they could be not real licences, or?
I'm not saying that, but the licensing authorities seem to be giving them licences. That's the only way, because no way can they be passing the proper licensing tests. They can't be doing it.
The legislation on Hackney carriages goes back to the 17th century. Its original origins anyway. It's been changed a lot since then, but 1847, Town Police Causes Act 1847 is the current legislation. Well, I expect when somebody drove a private hire vehicle and a hackney carriage out of the Arc, I suspect there was a rivalry then, and there still is now. There's always the accusation of the people in the hackney trade, or some of them. Again, it's infinitesimally small minorities of people saying, "Oh, the private hire drivers are doing what they call whippies, i.e., they're picking up illegally."
So, is there a kind of a rivalry between hackney and private drivers? Would you say?
No. Private hire drivers are filth, and we're not, because a large proportion of them haven't quite got the knowledge that we've got. We do a knowledge test.
Right.
They do a very scaled down version of that knowledge test. So quite often you can. The guy might not do it intentionally, but you do get a bit of a runaround because of his lack of skills.
I obey the taxi rules where they don't. And I pulled a few of them up over it, or they just chuck abuse at you, so...
There are a very, very small number of people in the trade who espouse very extreme political opinions and like to wind people up by making them public.
Licensing is not a problem. It's just the lack of council officials out here checking up on cars and that.
Right.
I mean, you can see my car.
Pristine.
Well, I like to think so. But some of them, and the driving of some drivers, I think they should just pull them a bit.
Okay, so you also have to kind of investigate the ranks as well, don't you? You have to kind of parade the ranks and check the drivers. And...
We look at the ranks. There's a lot of management by walking about, talking to people. You know who your drivers are. I have to say, whatever else we may think about them on occasions, mostly the trade is self-policing, because if somebody appears whose face is not known, there are soon questions asked. And if there's something out of place, I'm very certain they will phone here. They're quite jealous of their status, and the fact that the licence gives them a right to take the public from A to B and to charge them money. Therefore, they want to keep that, and they don't want somebody else muscling in on their territory, so to speak.
How do you feel that clients and people that you pick up, how do you feel that they perceive you? Because as you said at the beginning, you said kind of how taxi driver is considered a job that's just kind of people fall into.
Yeah, different cultures perceive you differently. If you're carrying around foreign students, if you're carrying around Saudi Arabians, they think you're dirt.
Right.
But what's to be remembered about taxi drivers, the guy that's driving your taxi could be a penniless guy that's just arrived from somewhere else, or he could be a bankrupt English guy, or the guy could be a millionaire,
right? Who's
a property, with 2 or 3 properties, or he might have 6 cars.
You mentioned you had a cousin here.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any other family over here as well?
Not yet. Yeah, no, just cousin here. And my family is actually back there in the Czech Republic. It's a wife and 2 children, 2 boys.
Oh, so your wife and 2 children are back in Czech Republic?
Yes, they are.
Is that hard? I can imagine that's...
It is, yeah. It is, yeah. I don't know, maybe it's harder for them, or for my wife. Yes, I think. I keep myself very busy, so I don't think about it. But hopefully I will bring them over in the summer to live here with me.